long time.
Oh, come on, those beatings, those people are resisting arrest.
Here's a close-up look at the Modhouse Audio T60 RP Mark III. This is taking a Fostex base model and a company named Modhouse Audio ups it in every way, in comfort and tuning. It's got a driver in it that people have been customizing and playing with lots of different companies. This is the Modhouse Audio version and the T60 Mark III version of that. This has the velour pads on it. If somebody had my library, listened to the same library that I usually refer to when I do my reviews and said, I want something that's less than $500 and I can listen to for a long time, this would be the set that I would recommend. This is a very, very relaxing, very comfortable, very long listen-friendly set. I love it a lot because I like to listen for long sessions. Take a look at some of the stuff you could get if you order it. You can get the Periapt, I think that's what it's called. Interconnect comes with its own serial number and everything. It's a XLR basically. I wouldn't recommend. I'm using the Jotunheim 2. I think you should use something that's got a reasonable amount of power. You can check online to be specific what would be maybe the minimum. The more power, the better. This is not an easy thing to drive, and I think you probably should have more than you need. The pad options that you can get with this is the pleather, which is pretty much the same. Actually, no, it's not. The velour looks huge, but these are pretty big. And you can also get the lambskin, which are nice, and I used for a while, but I decided to stick with the velour because didn't change the sound that much actually to me, and I just love the comfort of it. If you were to buy this set stock, you would get something like this. Actually, this is the pad that comes stock, and this is the pad at minimum, or it could be this one that you would be listening to. Now, just pads like tips and other things make sonic differences. They make slight difference. They do a lot more to that driver in there than just change pads, obviously, but just this one thing. You could buy a set of Fostex yourself and then upgrade the pads, but then you would be losing out on some of the tuning that they did with this set. And you would be missing out. This is a really, really nice set. So this is the set that I'll be referring to. I'll be using the velour pads, and I'll also be using this cable, and I give my impressions, and it'll be off of a Jotunheim 2, and it'll be adjusted by a microphone to 77 dB with a 440 hertz test tone. And then I'll proceed. The test tone is a file that is in JRiver Music. It's not on a separate part of Windows 10, so somebody brought that up before and said, are you really doing that? Yes, the file is inside the music player. Test it, get it to 77, and then proceed to listen to music. So my listening level is 77 dB for everything that I speak about when it comes to my opinions about how this handles kick drums and bass guitars and male vocals and female vocals and the shimmering or the life and the decay of cymbal strikes. It's all done at a volume of 77. It's an important piece of info for you to know. That's close up, and let's proceed. Okay, the Modhouse Audio T60 RP Mark III. This is customization, like I said in the intro. Is this a set that I would recommend? Yes. For this configuration in my hand with the lambskin pads and the XLR cable, you can get it for about $499, $500. Yes. Is it on the technical level of something like the Arya? That's the stealth version, and I'm going to review it. No, it's not. A and B in between the two, that's not really accurate, but it's obvious, so you can tell. This is something that's more tuned like a Meze, which is a very expensive set, and that's part of the reason that I didn't fall in love with it, because it was like $3,000 and it wasn't technically proficient, but it was a sofa set. This is a $500 set, and it's a sofa set, and in some ways I think it's a little bit superior to that because it doesn't have the blunted end of the notes like the Meze does. This seems to do some stuff better than that. Where does this go weak? I'm trying to do this quick because people click out of videos very fast. I can check the YouTube statistics. Hi-hats. Listening to a track like Sultans of Swing, there's a couple points where the hi-hat is notable, When I listened to just this set, I enjoyed it a lot. When I A and B'd with the Arya and this, I noticed that during Sultans of Swing, there was a moment where I was picking up the hi-hat, and I was picking it up on this, but it was a little more subtle. So that would be an example of exactly where there's a difference. The ability to pick up the hi-hat in Sultans of Swing, which is not a main or prominent instrument, but it's there, was more notable on this set, and I noticed that it was less upfront on this set. It was there, but it maybe wasn't quite as faithfully reproduced audiophile as something like the Arya. I don't have, let's talk about power real quick. That's the Jotunheim 2, that's on high gain, and it's at 9 o'clock I'm looking at right there. That is a pinch more than the Susvara to get to 77 dB with the file that I use. This needs power. If you're not using power, it's a waste to get this. You really need, I would recommend the Jotunheim 2 because that's what I'm using. It works and it's got plenty of headroom. A lot of people say that stuff like the Susvara and like this needs whatever they're talking about. I don't really know. That has enough power for the Susvara and it has enough power for this, but this is notable in that it needs a lot of power. And because it's more affordable, the people that buy this might have more affordable amps or not that powerful. So make sure you check the specs and you have enough power to power these things because it does need the juice. And I'm not talking about my personal listening level. I'm talking about getting this to 77 dB on a 440 hertz tone. That took a lot. A little bit more than the Susvara. That was surprising. Oh, you'll notice it's also got the lambskin pads on it while I did the intro with the suedes. Let's talk about music. When I listened to Big Boy, Kill Jill, I thought that the bass sounded good, but it was lacking a little bit. And then I looked at this set and I thought that it was fine on that. It was actually very good on that. Let me go more apples to apples and go ahead and throw something not suede on there, and I went ahead and put the lambskins on. I think this is pleather, but they both sealing kind of on my ear and giving me that slight vibration that maybe transfers through that material, but it doesn't go through this quite as well. So that fixed that issue. It sounds good. The intro, the Vocaloid at the beginning is not harsh or offensive at all. Notice again that I don't have any dynamic drivers on my table. As I'm speaking, this stuff's coming to me because I don't have script. I have notes of stuff that I listened to and noted and wrote down, but I don't have a script. There's no dynamic drivers on my table because taking a dynamic driver and listening to Black Sabbath Masters of Reality, I want to be super specific with you guys because this might be a headphone crowd. Sweet Leaf, from 2:30 to 2:30 roughly, there's a bass is playing very fast pulls and releases. And there's a drummer that's going on at the same time. So we've got two instruments that are coexisting in the same area of the frequency response at about the same time. At least they're overlapping. And it can kind of diminish, can kind of mask or cancel each other out and make the overall quality sound obviously not ideal compared to other things that when you've heard it good. And it certainly doesn't sound as good as if you were maybe live or with a good floor speaker system. That is kind of notable. The ability for dynamic drivers to take this and do that and play the bass guitar and the drum kit that's going, he's going all across kit at the same time. Again, 2:30, 2:36 for about 30 seconds. It's very hard for dynamic drivers to do, so much that I don't have any on my table. That HE6SE is plastic, ghetto, ridiculously embarrassing the build quality of that hi-fi man. But it does sound good, actually. And it's a planar, and that's a planar, that's a planar, that's a planar, that's a planar. Haven't found a dynamic driver yet that'll do what all of the sets in this video will do. And that is play Sweet Leaf in a way that sounds authentic and doesn't blow out the vocals and everything else because it's doing the bass well because it's slightly elevated, but that elevation is impacting the rest of the replay. None of these planars do that. The best replay of it, I guess they all do it well. That's why they're on my table. I enjoy the replay by the Modhouse a little bit more than the Arya because I think it's got a little bit more low-end energy. Not the same resolution and quality, but it's got a little bit more low-end energy. Listening to Blind Faith, Can't Find My Way Home, the acoustic guitar in the intro by Eric Clapton, also the significant cymbal strikes by Ginger Baker at 27 and 38 seconds. You can check those there. The 38 second is more significant. Sounded good. There was an issue that I picked out when I got to Sultans of Swing. that I didn't notice when I was listening to just the Modhouse itself. When I listened to that, I thought, this sounds awesome. It's organic. It's musical. I love it. When I started to listen to the Arya, I noticed that I could get the hi-hat a little more clearly. It kind of came out at me, and then I went back, and yeah, that's playing that a little cleaner than it is on the Modhouse. So that was obvious. So on Sultans of Swing, the hi-hat that's subtle, it's not pushed out, it's not supposed to be notable like a prominent cymbal strike, but it is there more realistically on the Arya than it is on the Modhouse. But again, $1,500, $500, and the tonality and musicality of the Modhouse is very appealing to me. I like it a lot, and how it plays back my library. I thought that Elton John and piano on Philadelphia Freedom, Someone Saved My Life Tonight, also Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. The vocals keep grabbing me on this set. I love the vocals on this set. Wild Horses by the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger. Tired of living, it's easy to do. That was just like being in the fucking studio with Mick Jagger. That was an amazing experience on that set, and this is pretty close to that. I think that is maybe a slightly, just a little bit better, or that was like my first hit of that drug called Modhouse Audio, and it just kind of blew me away, and I think I'm chasing that high with the headphones. I thought that Dreams sounded good. I thought that Gold Dust Woman, I love Stevie Nicks. The intro of this, this is part of my notes right here. The intro of this, the first maybe minute of Gold Dust Woman, it was amazing. I love this set. It's not overly detailed in the upper treble. It's not treating cymbals and hi-hats in the most ideal way, but it's making vocals sound very, very nice and appealing to my brain, which makes me want to listen longer. And I got to the point where I started A and Bing stuff and taking pads off, and I don't do that with stuff that I don't like. I don't even do videos for dynamic driver sets like the Zeus. And when you've got that much mid-bass and you're doing it with a dynamic driver, that just can't do that Black Sabbath part. And then I can't, once you know, you can't let go. You can't unknow that stuff. This, I wouldn't say that the Modhouse Audio with its elevated bass is something that I would really recommend for hip-hop libraries. Then again, I don't know what I would recommend. I guess it's as good as anything. I think those Belon B60, because they're upped in the low end and $150, that would be something I'd say if you just really got a hip-hop library. And then if you're moving up the scale, this would be maybe something to consider, but I don't have enough experience with bassy sets and particularly dynamic driver that I'm just focusing on a hip-hop library. With hip-hop included with a rock and roll library, yeah, it'll do it, but I'm really focusing on rock and roll and vocals when I listen to this, not so much of my hip-hop library, though it does it fine. One notable thing, which is where the Sundara, the original version, and also the Sennheiser HD660 or something like that, I can't remember, when the levee breaks, the intentionally produced authoritative kick drum. Remember, we're talking about audiophile faithful reproduction. That's what they mastered. That's how they did it. It's an iconic intro to a song. It should sound like that when sets don't have enough bass. That's not audiophile because it's not faithful reproduction. This set in my left hand will do this right. It's not overly emphasized, but it's not neutered either. It's crossing that line, straddling it really. It's not offensive. It's not too much, but it's not anemic for me to sit there and think, fuck, okay, at least I can hear it. It sounds like a kick drum. No, it sounds like an authoritative kick drum on this set, so I enjoyed it a lot. The only thing, I thought this did good with live stuff. It did good with Frampton. Frampton Comes Alive. It also did good with Dixie Chicken on this album, which I mentioned before. Stuff like the Meze and stuff like this, the Modhouse Audio T60 RP, I'll stop talking about it because that name's too long, seems to really do well with like live stuff because it's got that musical type of thing to it that is not really the same as something like the Susvara or the Arya, which is more accurate and precise and intense, and maybe my hearing is sensitive, so I'm not going to lay down on a bed with the Susvara and fall asleep because it's got everything. It's like falling asleep while you're listening to a band in the amphitheater. Like, I wouldn't do that. Something like this is a little more polite and would allow me to do something like that. Leonard Skinner sounded good on this set. My whole library, Marvin Gaye, Sexual Healing, the 808 Roland at the beginning, sound fucking brilliant on this. This is let me summarize and not beat this to death. This is not something that's on par with the Audio, but that's $1,500. Another hi-fi man that is around this price you can mention, and I'll maybe put it in a head-to-head down the road, and you can make some specific requests using the songs that I usually listen to. Oh, one last thing. I keep dinging on this thing, but I love it, but I do got to point out. There's a song called Tin Man by America, and you probably have no idea what that is, but that's not the point, really. The point is that I know this song very well, and it's kind of become something like the Sultans of Swing will always indicate mid-bass elevation to me. Tin Man by America, when something has slightly recessed vocals, it is apparent on this track. And it is slightly recessed on this set, on that track. So I know it is. It's not up front in my face, it's slightly back. It doesn't bother me, but it is noticeable in the same way that the hi-hat opening and closing was noticeable when compared with the Audio. When it was by itself on Sultans of Swing, it did fine. When it was compared, it was obvious that there was a difference in its presentation, and the more accurate would be the Audio than this. Again, having said that the hi-hats are not quite on par, and that the cymbal strikes are not quite the same, but the bass 4-string is very good, and the drum kit is quite good, and the vocals sound very nice and very engaging. I recommend the set. $500. I love it. It's a personal. At 77 dB measured on a Jotunheim 2 with the library that sits in front of you that I always talk about with IEMs and actually match very well with the Susvara because it's just an awesome set, and the HE6 SEV2 and the Audio Stealth and also the original does very well in a different way with the Modhouse Audio, in a way that I find appealing and makes me want to relax. It's a very relaxing set, and with these pads it's like your head is toast and this headphone is just soft butter. Just melts onto your head. It's so fucking excellent. This set is a absolute savage beast. This is close to that. Not quite the same thing. I don't know why. Like I said, like the first hit, I think that the first time I heard Wild Horses, Mick Jagger's vocals, tired of living, it's easy to, that just grabbed me. It did the same with this, but I was expecting it, and when it happened with this one, I wasn't. It's like being taken by surprise is exactly what it means. I didn't know what was coming when I listened to this the first time, and now I was listening for it. It's a slightly different experience. That's the T60 RP Mark III. It's a long fucking name. You got to wait a long time in its price range. If you listen to a library like mine, I would recommend it. And that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Next review will no doubt be earphones, and that's a KNRU6 because I'm going to start. Does your phone have RGB? Do you know what RGB does to total harmonic distortion? Cuts it in half. I'm not kidding. Somebody's going to actually believe what I just said right there. And I'm out.